Okay, is this going live now? Okay, it says it's live. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything about young people and how they think we're supposed to understand the internet. But they say it's live. So this is Roseanne, your granny out here in the United States of America, the last hope for humanity, the constitutional republic that stands as a beacon of light to the world, hopefully, and a beacon of liberty, truth, and freedom for old loudmouth old Jewish ladies such as myself. And my guest is from Jerusalem. He's a friend of mine, Lowell Gallin. And Lowell, you're quite a scholar, and I really love you as a true brother in spirit. Welcome to the show today, which we're calling Q News for Jews and Their Friends.
Thank you.
Well, what have you got to say for yourself, Lowell?
Well, the first thing I would like to say is greetings to your viewers and listeners, and happy Mother's Day to our Lady Roseanne,
Thank you.
America's mom, Granny Rose, a biblical Boudica, Esther, Devorah, Hannah, and High Priestess of Heaven.
Thank
Now,
you.
if that sounded like a mouthful, as we both know and your listeners will know, actually mean everything I say, so I can get away with saying things like that. And I would like to wish your viewers and listeners a special greetings from the land of Israel, city of God, Jerusalem, and Hill of the Priests, overlooking Mount Moriah, where the third and final Israelite temple of Jerusalem will soon be under reconstruction and stand forever, as per the prophet Ezekiel chapters 40 through 48. In terms of getting it fixed in the time-space continuum in which we live, I'd also like to say that today is Monday, May 11, 2020, and because it's the evening, it is now the 18th of ER 5780, and the Lag BaOmer festival has begun. It's the day when the soul of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, author of the Zohar, of which Our Lady Roseanne is a master, Rabbi Roseanne, when his spirit returned to the heavens, and it's the day when my spirit came down earth into my terrestrial human body. We're all spirits in terrestrial human bodies. I was born on Lag BaOmer, April 29th, 1956.
Well, Lag BaOmer is such a wonderful holiday, so I'd like to say I hope you have a joyous Lag BaOmer. And it's kind of weird in Israel because it's under lockdown, right, because of the pandemic. And so Lag BaOmer has kind of been canceled, right? You can't go in your big groups and light your bonfires and do the traditional things of gathering that hundreds and thousands of people in New York and in, uh, uh, you know, dang, I'm blank on the name now. Uh, is it Marot? What is it? I forget the name. Outside
Meron, I think it's
Maroon.
Meron.
I'm sorry, Maroon. Yeah, out. Yeah, where everybody celebrates the day. But there's a lot of stories that people don't know about Lag BaOmer. So I thought I would connect people. And the thing I love to talk about in public about Judaism is the history of Judaism, the history of the Jewish people, because the other stuff is not really for public, too much for public. Who is that?
Debbie?
Oh, I want to talk to Debbie. Hold on.
Oh, sorry, I just
A master is calling me. Hold on.
call back.
A master on Lag BaOmer is calling me back. So hold on, Lowell.
You want speakerphone?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Debbie. I've got
Hey.
Debbie. What were you going to tell me? Did you find out about Rabbi Akiva?
Yeah, I just sent it to you. I just sent it to you by text. You just click on it. It's the tzaddikim. It's the 10th of Libra.
Oh, thank you so much, Debbie. I love you.
Okay.
Talk to you
Love
soon.
too.
Bye.
Okay.
Oh, good. I got a text that we can add to our treasures here. Hilula Day. If you let's see. According to Kabbalah. Okay, so so my mother, listen to this. I called my mom and I'm like, Mom, what do your prayer book say about Lag BaOmer? Because the thing I find so amazing is the radical difference in the various Jewish prayer books. It's crazy. At my mother's, it says that Lag BaOmer is the death date of Rabbi Akiva, one of the greatest rabbis who ever lived, during the destruction of the Second Temple, which Christians, that's, the Bar revolt, where, they think they know history, but they got a couple of missing stuff and things in there that I want to tighten up for them. But it's not at all. Debbie, I said, check this. I've never heard this before. Debbie, can you research this for me? So she did, and it is not the date where Rabbi Akiva died whatsoever. It is the date where Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, author of the Zohar, he didn't just die. He directed his soul to leave the world so that people would celebrate this day, because he knew we would forget unless he left the world on that day. And what is it that we remember on this day? The 33rd day of the count of the Omer. Right. What we remember is that the 33rd letter in Genesis is a T, which stands for good. T means good, tav, good, goodness. And this is the day of goodness. And that's what we must remember. And where that comes from is on the 33rd day of the count of the Omer is where we received manna from heaven, the magical food that fed us. And it didn't just feed us, it enlightened us. It enlightened an intellectual and spiritual spark within us that finds its zenith on Hanukkah. So I just wanted to tell people that. And so tonight we stay up all night studying. And if we can indeed stay up all night studying the Zohar, the book of light, then we can really fill ourselves with a lot of light, because this day is 25 days until Shavuot, which is the day we receive the revelation. We receive the revelation on Mount Sinai. So we are preparing our vessel, which is, I'm going to read this thing I have about our vessel, our dress, that God makes dresses for souls to come to this earth. Some he makes a certain color, another color, he puts them in different shapes. We are those dresses that dress up a soul. And this is the day of the soul. And we are readying our soul on this day to receive, again, as we do every single year, a revelation from Sinai, which never gets old and it never changes.
Right.
And it is the revelation of 10 spheres, not 10 commandments, 10 utterances, 10 direct utterances from Hashem, the supernal number of all numbers. The supernal number of all supernal numbers. That's one of the ways we refer to him when we look at the Torah as a mathematical formula, and a lot of us do. So I hope that filled you in on some of the stuff there, Lowell.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to read this to everybody, because the other thing says, don't have this be a day of mourning. Rabbi Shimon did not want us to mourn his death. He wanted us to feel joy on this day, because we should feel joy, not mourning or sadness that we were kicked out of Egypt and wandered around in the desert. That was before they had GPS. But we wandered around there for 40 years and we were in mourning, and we had to learn to be in joy, because being in joy is the way you really escape slavery. And that is the story, the kernel of the story within a story within a story within a story that Zohar teaches us about. And it's just a wonderful way to study Torah. Many people say that the Torah is the dress, and Zohar is the body. And Torah itself is about the human body. And, people don't know that, because Jewish people are in a civil war, aren't we, Lowell? We're in a big civil war that's never ended for thousands of years, and we just love telling each other how everybody else is wrong. Everybody always questions what is a Jew, and in my book, Roseanne, I finally answered that, and I said, what is a Jew? I'm answering it. A Jew is one who thinks everyone else is wrong.
That would be a good description of the way things have been, they are now.
We're in a civil war, and it really bothers me about the whole Q movement. They have absolutely no consciousness of this at all. Although they quote the Bible here and there, but they don't know what that's about either, do they?
Well, they've never, as we both know, the people who were involved in this movement, as General Flynn said, I have my army of digital soldiers.
That's right.
Many of whom are on the autistic spectrum. And when Q posts, he, she, or it will say, "Go to it, autists. I'm waiting for you. We are waiting to hear your analyses." So we create a local area network of super minds who also have good hearts. And for some reason, it seems to me I've never really met anyone on the spectrum who worked for the other side.
I haven't
I'm not
either.
saying this, but I haven't met them. So unfortunately for these people, they never really in general have had an opportunity to talk to Israelites. We are 12 tribes of Jacob, Israel, from any kind of a traditional perspective. They either have the schlemiels and suits of establishment Jewish organizations. What do you got there?
This is the representation of the 12 tribes of Israel.
Oh, wonderful. Well, that's really nice. What is it? A bracelet?
Yeah.
A necklace?
It's a bracelet.
Nice. As we ourselves have experienced, all we can do is fire brigade coming to the rescue, attempt in a small way to, like the Dutch boy with a finger in the dike, say, we can't change what you have not had. My people are starved for lack of knowledge, whether it's the children of Israel or everybody, but we can attempt to give the folks out there who actually, rather than talking to themselves or their corner candy store preachers and pastors who are world-leading experts on Jews, Judaism, Israel, and really in general know nothing about it.
Right.
We can give you.
It reminds me of when white people dress up like Indians, and then they go like this, how, whoa, how, that in complete ignorant racism, which of course they don't see as racism at all, do they?
Right. I tell you a story about that. My father, Lieutenant Colonel Martin Gallin, Esquire, whose terrestrial human body died on October 16, 2018, at the age of 98, was a captain in World War II, a European theater, U.S. Army. And when he came out on the GI Bill, he went to NYU Law School and graduated law review in 1948. Married my mother in 1949 and opened a small office in the South Bronx in 1952, catering to mostly Puerto Ricans who were just coming up from the island after World War II, most of whom literally couldn't read and write and had been in everything but name only slaves on the plantations in the mountains. They were called Hiberos. And my father said that they loved him. They welcomed him into their community. He was the nice Jewish boy who will also fight like hell for them, which he did. And he always said to me, I never pretended to be one of them. They didn't want me to be one of them. They were hiring me because I was the nice Jewish boy who graduated NYU Law Review and I came down. I wasn't doing social work. even though the people I was working with, they're very proud. They always had to pay for their services, even if they had no money to give a cake. My mother still has beautiful crochet, what do they call them, curtains in the living room that if you'd have to buy today, if you could even get them, because they very proud people, and they respected my father, and they knew my father respected them, and he never said, "What's happening, man? Que pasa?" They would not have wanted that. And often people who really have no rapport with other people, especially from other cultures, think, "I'll show you I'm one of the boys by imitating, say, hey, black is beautiful. I'll put Afro pick in my back pocket." They don't want that. They want you be you and I'll be me. We'll respect each other. This is exactly
Yeah, it's
what you're
about
saying.
boundaries, cultural boundaries, isn't it?
Yes, one thing we both experienced, especially recently, is Christians are so rooted in it's not their fault that they're dealing with 19 centuries of classical Christian Jew hatred and replacement supersessionist theology. They're not even aware of it. So that one British foreign service officer, about a century ago, right? What was his definition of anti-Semitism? Disliking Jews more than is natural.
Ah,
So they're not even aware that they're not aware that they don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm a nice person. Even Wilhelm Marr, who in Germany coined the term anti-Semitism, said, I don't have a problem with Jews. My wife is Jewish, which was true. And yet he started a whole anti-Semitic movement, which also gets back to a point you raised about how people's minds are segmented, especially.
maybe he should have just worked his issues out with his wife.
I don't know if he ever did. These people, anyway, it's not my problem or your problem. What their problem is, that's not our problem.
No.
We want to give people address, like you said, deep Q news for Jews and friends. You know Kabbalah and Zohar. I know pretty well Tanakh and traditional commentaries. I don't really know much about the Talmud, nothing against it, but I didn't grow up with any of that. So we can give people what we know and introduce them to real scholars in the community. I'll tell you, in 1983, when the International Christian Embassy was opening up shop in Jerusalem, I had a booth there for the Root and Branch Association, and I was preparing a directory on international Christian support for Israel. I'll never forget what a lady told me. She came to the booth. They saw I wasn't a completed Jew, Messianic Jew, Jewish Christian, or whatever euphemisms they use. And she asked me a question.
Uh-huh.
And before I answered, she said, "Wait a minute. Before you answer, I want you to promise me something. I don't want you to tell me what you think I want to hear, and I don't want you to not tell me what you think I don't want to hear. Just tell me what you think is the truth, because if you don't tell me that, I have no frame of, I don't even know where I am. I may believe what I believe, but without reference to you being the North Star, being, what is it, the spiral, but it goes forward on an axis. The serpent's right, Isaiah 27, verse 1. Their view is a secular world, the Luciferian world of life and death, and it never changes, but at ours it goes somewhere. And on the axis, she said, if you don't provide that access, I don't know who I am or what I am. I'll never forget what she said.
So did you answer honestly?
Yes, which is as you know, because we've been communicating for 4 years, I always answer everybody honestly. As we both know, for people who are on the spectrum, in my case, I was only formally diagnosed with high-functioning autism/Asperger's in the summer of 2015 by the Keshet Institute. Keshet means rainbow, at Tel Hashomer Hospital in Ramat Gan, Israel. People on the spectrum, we are painfully honest.
Yeah.
And this can be a problem
Yeah, they don't like honest
organizations or
people.
corporations where
They don't
it's
like
not,
people who tell them the
you know, the
truth.
court in the old days.
They don't like
Well,
people
even
who
in the
tell
old
the
days, the
truth.
king had to have. They're always the rare one out of a million who does. And even in the Middle Ages, the king had the court jester. Someone was permitted to tell him the truth, so that uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. He had to have someone around him to tell the truth to extend his possibilities of living a little bit longer.
Yeah, but if
you and
he
I
didn't
both know that
like the
people like us.
message, if he didn't like the message, he killed the messenger. If the guy wasn't funny enough, or he thought he was uh, not funny in the right way, the jester, they, power doesn't laugh
Yeah,
at
this
itself.
is a big problem.
Power never laughs at
Even
itself.
I guess that's why the the Trump team are so funny with their memes. In general, people on our side in the truth movement have a good sense of humor, and people on their side don't like humor. Humor is very threatening. In general, dictators don't like anyone to tell jokes around about them, maybe around them, but you don't. Certainly in the Arab and Muslim world, you never make fun of the ruler. You'll be dead, absolutely forbidden. And as we also in
I so feel sorry
that's
for
just the way.
comedians. I feel so sorry for comedians in Iran. Can you imagine women comics in Iran? What they do to them?
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine it. That's also a good question. What is the role of comedy in Arab and Muslim society? Does it even exist? Now, there was a cartoonist, Ali Awad Adhami, who lived in London, and he would draw cartoons making fun of Abdul Rauf al-Khodbi al-Husseini, euphemistically known as Yasser Arafat, and his leadership, and said, "You laugh and cry about us poor Palestinians while you live high off the hog." Well, Arafat didn't appreciate that, and I think in 1991, he sent a member of his 417 to London, and he found Ali Awad Adhami, shot him in the face. He died, and that was a very clear message. You don't make fun of the dictator; it's simply not permitted. And you see that in Hollywood, the people who attacked and betrayed you. We see that with the people who attack and betray President Trump. But actually, that's not our problem. That's their problem.
Yeah, I realize that now. I was thinking about it for all these 3 years since I was murdered. But boy, there's some real deep racism on their side. I'm hearing a lot of feedback. Maybe it's my phone. There's a lot of deep racism on their side when you really break it down, and I'll talk about that another time. But back to Log. I want to read this about Lag BaOmer, but we'll do that later. But um, what do you think? I was, every time when I'm almost losing faith and my hope is getting threadbare, because I do, it seems like the very next day there's something incredible that happens that hooks me back in and brings me back, and renews me. Do you know what I mean? Like, did you see
Yes,
yesterday on Twitter that Obamagate was trending at almost 3 million? So that the anonymous people or the Q people had overcome Twitter censorship is what it really means. All
right.
those algorithms and the tech tyrants, uh, we busted their their Stalinist news control,
Yes, it's
and it made it through the ether, so that the corruption of the Obama administration, which was what my tweet was about, it finally made it somewhat into the mainstream about them setting up General Flynn and trying to frame the president of the United States. I mean, did they not think they'd get caught for that?
Well, I'll tell you what my father said about that because he worked his practice from 1952 to when he retired in the year 2000 was in the South Bronx, which is a Fort Apache, Bonfire of the Vanities. Tom Wolfe. My father said when he read the book, he was amazed how Tom Wolfe. He said he got everything right. He said I knew all the people in the book. He just changed the names. That I asked, how do criminals get caught? And down there in the South Bronx, you had the Tongs, the Triads, Father Gigante with the Italian mob, the Ramon Velez with the Puerto Rican mob, every mob you can possibly think of. He said the way people get caught is the first time that steal the candy bar from the grocery store, they don't get caught. They say, well, I'm doing pretty good. Then they can steal it again, second time, third time. They keep doing it. Maybe they keep doing more. And they develop a sense that, well, I'm invincible. I have a lucky star. I have an angel watching out for me. If you do that long enough, you get sloppy and you may not get caught, but usually sooner or later, you get caught on something. Al Capone, they got him on tax evasion. They got all of them on something. Says our team says these people thought Trump would never win. And then he won. And they were sloppy. And our team has been systematically, logically vacuuming up the data, putting the dots together, and locking on target. They never thought it would come so far. And actually, there's a reason why we both know it did come so far, and it comes to who's our commander-in-chief and who's their commander-in-chief. Their commander-in-chief is a fallen angel, Lucifer, his demons, and their earthly serfs, slaves, and servants, of which they are members. Our commander-in-chief is the creator of the universe, Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the Elohim, the heavens, and the Shemayim, and the earth. That's it, ground zero. And he created the dark forces, the light forces, the good angels, the bad angels, leaving aside the issue of free will and rebellion in the earthly and extraterrestrial and heavenly spheres.
Lowell?
These people bet on the wrong. Yes.
Yeah. But here's something that everybody needs to hear, in my opinion. Yeah, God created everything, including the other side. And it's in the story of Lag BaOmer that I'm going to read. Why people have been lied to for thousands of years. For thousands of years. All of us. Every single one of us have been lied to. And Lag BaOmer is about, they always say, think outside of the box, and then they just have a bigger box. But Lag BaOmer is about thinking inside the box, the cube of life, the four-sided, the cube. Okay, think inside the little tiny box that creates life, the life force, and everything in it. The cube of space, mathematics. Think in logical terms. That's what you were created for. You were not created to sit there and think in supernatural devil ways. You better wake up.
Right, absolutely. This book, I have this book here, which is by a Kabbalist, Rabbi Yitzchak Ginsburg, and is called Awakening the Spark Within, 5 Dynamics of Leadership That Can Change the World. When I first got the book, I thought, oh, another self-help book with a little Kabbalah whipped cream put on the cake. But it wasn't. The more I read it, the more I get out of it. And he says, just like you say, he says, the way to the spiritual is through the physical.
That's right, and that's what Torah teaches us. And nobody, none of them, they've kept it from us. They've lied to us. They've shielded it. But this is the night where we break their spell. Their dirty